Sans gluten. Hi, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Also very good. Long time no see.
I'm very glad we joined right now because there was somebody doing yard work outside and it was so noisy. And I was like, oh no. And they just stopped.
That's good. Here it's also quite
Perfect.
quiet right now, which is good.
Good. Awesome. And you're
So how are
back in
you?
Vienna, yes?
Sorry, say that
You're
again?
you're back in Vienna?
Yeah, I'm back in Vienna.
Awesome.
I'm at home, in an apartment, the
Nice.
plant always in the background, of course. You changed my
I'm
relocation, which is
actually
great.
I'm up in Oregon this time, so I have a very different background. I have like maps on the wall and stuff. So I'm in my like high school bedroom visiting
Ah,
family up here. So this is a total blast from the past. But they
that's
got to
nice,
try
yeah.
the cake, which they're very excited
hmm
about.
So you baked this time in Oregon.
Yes, I did. Thankfully, my family are big bakers, so they had all the supplies. I didn't have to bring anything. I was like, this is
hmm
perfect.
That's
So
perfect.
it worked.
So do you want to introduce the cake with me?
Yeah, so this is our fifth long overdue fifth dessert wine and dessert pairing. So
hmm
for those of you who hadn't seen the first ones, we did four other ones.
Four
I
others.
think back in like May or April, a while back, and we you picked a wine and then gave me a tasting notes, and then I went from there and kind of created a recipe for dessert to pair with these amazing wines, and they were all fantastic. So we'll share all those afterwards. But this time, you had a very special occasion that you wanted this for. So you
Yeah.
had the wine already picked out. So that was. Do you want me to show the wine?
I can show you wine. So this is the wine that actually got gifted by a common friend of us, of Amelia and me. It's a
Oh,
Commandaria.
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
this is sweet wine from Cyprus.
Yes.
So many of you might not know that there's wine in Cyprus, but there is actually. And it's not a big production, of course, because it's a tiny island. But this
Yeah.
is a very special wine. I will talk about it later on.
Perfect. Yeah, mine is looks a little bit different. It comes in a very fun little bottle. But that was the one I found in the States, so I will
Not so
link
easy to
that
get,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a little trickier, but at least I'm glad they had this one and it
Yeah.
shipped pretty quickly. So with these, some tasting notes that we went off of were fig, molasses, honey, vanilla, and caramel were kind of the big, which is a lot. So I tried to kind of fit it all in one cake. Um, and it worked. So this is the cake. It has a
Ooh.
slice out of it, so with like the caramel seeping out. But this is it's a bundt cake, which means it's kind of just, you don't have to worry about like constructing it. It's not a layer cake. They're generally pretty easy. As long as you have a bundt pan, you're good to go.
I'm also going
Um,
to show mine, by the way.
oh yes,
Doesn't
there
look
we go.
so,
Oh,
so
that looks
beauty.
amazing. Oh my
That's it.
god,
The
that
caramel
looks
rinsing
so
out.
good. That is awesome. I love the just like seeping caramel over the
hmm
sides. Like it just that is a way to elevate any dessert. Just cover it in like a sauce or a glaze or something. It looks amazing.
It was hard to resist and not like
Oh yeah, yeah. Even while I was
go all
making it,
around
I
the
was like,
thing.
this is good.
Yeah,
So it is a gluten-free dessert because I'm
yeah.
a gluten-free baker, but it is I'm calling it like a fig almond cake with caramel, but it has a lot of other notes in it. So I used a little bit of molasses in the cake and in the caramel. So the caramel is kind of a honey molasses caramel that you make really quickly at home.
Mhm.
And then it has toasted almonds in the batter that have a really nice nutty taste to them, and then lots of fresh figs in and on top of it, was awesome. So it this one turned out well. If you saw any of my stories, I had a disastrous first bake. Thankfully, I baked it on Sunday just to test it, and I used just the wrong bundt pan, and I didn't grease it enough, and it was just like fell apart. It was terrible. So this one actually worked, which was lovely.
Yeah, and I was lucky because I got all this information previously, so I made
Yes.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I know. I was like, oh no, if he uses this kind of pan, it's going to be awful. So I made sure to change the recipe and like add all these notes.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, we went back and forth and finding a common pan because you're in Vienna and I'm in California or Oregon. We're like, wow, how is this going to work? And I'm glad you had a bundt pan because that was perfect.
Yeah. It's actually quite good, and it's I mean, I haven't really tried, just while cooking a little bit, but it does look very good, and I think it's really, really good, and I can't wait to actually try it. But it is definitely quite easy to make. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I think I have to say this is the easiest of all the cakes we've made, or the desserts we've made so far.
Yeah.
Because it's just basically, well, we can talk about it later. I think it's already time to try and tell everyone how it tastes.
Yeah, I think so.
I already have a piece here, but I still have to pour the wine in the glass. I can open the bottle.
This is my breakfast, so it's healthy. It has nuts and fruit in it.
Yeah, I'm hosting a dinner tonight with 9 more friends, so we're 10 people all together. So this is why I thought we can have this wine, which is something special, and it has camellia, of course, because who is better than her to create such a beautiful recipe and something special for a day like today. And yeah, so I'm very excited. We're gonna have dinner soon, so our guests are coming in like in half an hour. But still, a bit of cake before dinner, it's nothing bad.
I had mine already poured because I literally just finished the photo shoot with the cake. I had to run in the bedroom and be like, okay, and now the cake's here. Photos are done. But yeah, I think mine might be, is it darker? Mine was really dark, ambery brown color.
Yeah, it should be quite dark because of the style of the wine, which is oxidized. So let's try it first, and then we can tell all the secrets about everything. Cheers!
Cheers! Oh, wow.
Definitely very good. And it's
really good.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait for it.
Okay, let's see. Get part of it. That's a good match.
Goes perfect together. Because you have this oxidized notes from oxidized aromas from the wine, like fig, of course, which is the main one. I get a lot of figs, maybe it's even pronounced with the cake, but also this caramelly, nutty aroma.
Yeah, it's very rich, but it doesn't taste too sweet. It's like a really nice kind of cooling edge to it, and I think the cake seems more subtle compared to the wine, which is really nice, even with the caramel, because caramel is like so sweet.
So overwhelming, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it is actually very well balanced, because as we said a few times, the wine should be sweeter than the dessert. And someone has asked what the wine is called. So this is Commandaria, and it's an AOC, so like an origin denomination, so like for this sweet wine in Cyprus.
Yeah.
And so basically it's a wine that it's when it's fermented, the fermentation is pretty much similar to port wine, let's say, just easy. Yeah. But then so basically that's it. And then some spirit is added, so the fermentation stops, and you have all that sweetness in the wine. So, but it's definitely because of the climate and the different varieties compared to port. It's
this one, I think somebody just asked if we could. It's called a Commandaria.
Yeah, Commandaria.
Again. This was the only one I could find in the Western United States, and I just shipped it to my house. But I'd never heard of specifically wine from Cyprus, like this specific type. And this one has a story on the back that's like, it was made famous in the 11th century during the Crusades.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. But.
That is true. This is where the name comes from, and this is one of the oldest protected names for wine, Commandaria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is a very special wine, actually, and from Cyprus.
Yeah.
No one knows it. So when I got it, I was super excited. And
have you tried this one? Had you tried Commandaria before, or was this totally new to you? Okay.
When I was in Cyprus, I did.
Oh, nice.
But it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I almost forgot how it tastes, but it's good to have it again.
This is lovely. I think I like this more because we did do a port.
Yeah.
I think that was the last one we did actually. But I think this is my favorite red that we've done. It's our sweet red. Just a bit more cake.
This red is good. And
that's really good.
Do you want to tell them the secrets of the recipe?
Oh, yes. So, gosh, what is the secret to the recipe? I think for this one, it is a really simple cake to mix up. Like, I just did it in one bowl, which was awesome. Yeah, the tricks that I made for this one, because a bundt pan, if you have never used a bundt pan before, they can be a little daunting because they're just like really heavy. I use like a cast iron one, so it's just like this massive thing. So there's 3 tricks to actually getting it out of the pan, because the first one I used a really fancy like ridged bundt pan that had all these little edges on it. And for this type of cake, if you're doing a plain bundt cake or like a pound cake, totally fine. But this cake has add-ins, which means like the chopped figs, the chopped toasted almonds. So there's extra little tiny things that can get stuck to the sides of the pan, especially like fruit, because it gets caramelized and sticky. And so it totally just stuck to the inside of the pan. It was awful. So 3 things that I did was I used a totally different bundt pan. So as you guys can see, this one's just kind of like that classic bundt shape. And it has much larger kind of rounded edges, so no like ridges to get stuck in. And you butter the pan like crazy. So I used even like a stick of half cup of salted room temp butter, and you just like cover the entire inside really, really thoroughly. And then I floured it, which I don't normally do, but a lot of folks, that's more of an old-fashioned way of baking, is flouring a pan after you grease it. I don't normally need to do it, but I think for bundt pans, that's an extra thing you should do. And you just kind of roll flour around until it's coated and knock out the excess. And then the third thing that's really, really important for this is just letting it cool. And so I remember I texted you last night. I was like, make it early because it takes forever to cool.
Yeah.
Mine took like 3 hours to fully, because the bundt pan holds so much heat. And so it takes so long. Even if it's a little bit warm, just wait. It's worth the extra patience, because even that extra little bit, if it's warm, it's more likely to crumble or like break off and stick. So just wait till it's totally cool. And then it should come out no problem. Let me know if you have problems with it, and I can help you with those. But otherwise, super simple cake. The really key things is getting extra flavor from browned butter, which was in the cake, the toasted almonds, which adds extra nuttiness and caramely flavors, and then that caramel sauce, I think, is like...
The caramel sauce gives a special touch on top, because so then you just have like a fun cake, but it's got something sweet and a bit like it's nice to have a sauce. I mean, it's not a lot, but it looks nice and
it looks lovely. And the cake itself is not too sweet, so it's nice to have a little extra sweetness on top.
Yeah,
which is great with the wine. Yeah, I remember the first time you said like, oh, the wine should be sweeter than the cake, and I was like, I have never heard that, and that is brilliant, because then it just fits so well together.
Yeah, definitely.
And I did not realize.
And these wines can be actually very sweet, so the sugar can go up to 300-400 grams, but it's rather not so style, like it's more than style. So nowadays they're a bit drier. So it's very difficult to say from a certain point on, at least for me, because as I've mentioned many times, sweet wines are unfortunately not in fashion, and and not many sweet wines are drunk. So also for me, I really like them for special occasions, but it's not something I usually do every day. So up to a certain extent, like, I don't know, 120 grams, I think it's very difficult to say if wine has 150 or 200 grams. But this one tastes sweet, definitely. But it's not extremely sweet. It might be also because of the acidity, as the grapes itself could kept some uh, oh yeah, some acidity left, so that balances, of course, the sweetness. But I assume this will have like 150 grams of residual sugar. And someone was asking about the alcohol, and the thing
Yeah.
is, when the grapes or like the mast is fermenting, as I mentioned before, you add spirit, so you stop the fermentation because you kill the yeast. But the alcohol, the final alcohol of the wine shouldn't exceed 20%. And for stopping this fermentation, the spirit you use is like usually 95%, I think. I'm not too sure about the specific details. I'm not a Commandaria expert. It's just a very nice thing to try. And it goes definitely perfect with the cake, but actually they were made to be together. So there's nothing that could go wrong, actually, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think mine, I don't know if mine's lower than yours. Mine said 15%.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, actually, I haven't checked my bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, mine is only 13%.
Oh,
I'm surprised.
interesting. That's lower than I thought. Yeah, even 15, I was like, huh. Because I thought it would be a little bit higher since it's like a sweeter wine.
Because Tawny Port, which should be one of the most similar styles of wine, usually has like 19 to 20%. It's also like pretty accurate in that spectrum. But for Commandaria, as far as I know, there's no like, except for the limit, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
In that.
It's lower than I thought, but there you go. A slightly lower percentage.
Yeah.
This is a great option too. It's such a good wine. Like you could just have sweet wine as a dessert by itself and it would be lovely. And then with the cake, it's like the perfect pair.
You have the combo. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get both. I definitely I was doing the photo shoot, and so I had to get a photo of me pouring the wine. And so I kept pouring and pouring and pouring. And I was like, this is a very big glass for the morning.
True. I chose this one as well. It actually looks kind of small, but it's not so small. So if I fill it up, it would be quite...
That's true. That would be quite a good dessert. I love these flavors.
By the way.
Wait, sorry, go for it. What did somebody say? It would be, have a strong cheese. Ooh, that would actually be really good. I'm trying to think a lot of cheeses are great with fig jam anyway. So I would, maybe like, what cheese would go well with this? That would actually be a really nice addition. Even just like a couple slices of cheese on the plate next to the cake. This may be totally, totally wrong because I'm not a cheese expert. I just love eating cheese.
Same.
But like a manchego, or I'm trying to think which ones are great with like a fig jam or like a really rich fruity jam.
Yeah, definitely something that would go well with fig jam or these big mustard stuff like that would go very well in Commandaria because it has a similar profile. Also, doesn't have so much alcohol. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
That's true.
Well forced. Thank you for that.
Gouda, perhaps. That's what somebody says. That's, even like an aged Gouda too, like a really older Gouda. That would be really good. Yeah, we'll definitely post a picture of the bottle.
Yeah.
And the cake. And the recipe will be up hopefully tonight, but if not, by tomorrow morning. So if you want to make it for a midweek celebration, it's actually easy enough that you can do that, which is great.
Yeah, it took me, I don't know how long it took you because you take all the stories and
true.
You develop the recipes, of course it takes longer, but once you have the recipe as I do, I don't think it took me more than an hour and a half, like with everything, just starting, baking, doing the sauce, and of course I had to wait in between to let the cake cool down and then assemble it, let's say, but it was definitely not as much as layer cake, for example, which was delicious. And it was so pretty, but
it takes, there's a lot of extra time. Yeah, this is just a lot of waiting. You just have to like wait for it to bake, wait for it to cool, and then just pour stuff on top and throw some figs on it, and it looks great. There were the couple pieces that just take, you can make a lot of it ahead of time. Like you can make the caramel sauce days in advance if you wanted to. Or like toast the almonds and make the browned butter days in advance and just have those ready, and then the day of you just throw it all together, and it'll save a lot of time.
And if you have some sauce left over, you can do what I did last time. It was a bit different sauce though, but it's basically a caramel sauce. You can take a piece of ricotta and then you can put it on top with some walnuts or something. It's just delicious.
Oh,
it's a dessert.
That would be
takes
so
like
good.
5 minutes. Not that.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, we had it. The first cake that was a disaster. We had family over for dinner, and I was like, maybe I should turn this out just to see if it works. Because if it didn't work, I was going to give it to them, and it didn't work, and it totally fell apart. So they got to eat the horrendous looking cake, and it tasted amazing, but it looked like a disaster. So they ate it with like the caramel sauce, and they added vanilla ice cream.
Oh,
That's
so
they didn't have the wine. I wish I could have opened the wine for them, but next time.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not a wine you can use collab because...
Yeah, that was perfect. So I was like, oh, I have to open it for this photo shoot, and then I have to bring it back here.
Yeah.
So I'll be taking it back home in the car when I drive down to San Francisco today.
So you still have a long day?
I do. I have some work, and then I'm going to be taking work calls from the car as I drive down, like taking stops. So it'll be a big day.
Okay.
I'm excited to be home.
Yeah. So it's good for you to take the time to do this actually in your morning.
Oh, totally. This was really fun.
Having so much to do still.
I mean, it was perfect because normally I do this at home and it's just me and my boyfriend, and we're like, okay, we have a giant cake and a whole bottle of wine. What do we do? So this was perfect. So now I'm like giving slices of this to like different family members and neighbors and everything up here. So it was the perfect setting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so if anyone has any question that we can answer, we would be very happy to do that. And
I don't think I see anything.
Otherwise, I think I didn't mention, by the way, which is, of course, very important. The aromas of the wine are that way because the wine is oxidized, so it's aged in oak barrels. After you have the wine fermented and the fermentation stopped, you put it in oak barrels, and over the time it oxidizes. I think the minimum time is like 2 years, but usually most of the producers do more time. Okay. So it's a bit like tawny or sherry or this kind of.
Yeah. Oh, random question for you.
Yeah.
My family was also like, oh, what is the difference between a port and a sherry? So we were talking about what would go well with the cake, and they're like, oh, maybe sherry. And I was like, I have no idea what the difference is. What is the difference?
So basically, like these 2 wines, you call it wines because inside each family, so there's like 2 denominations or origins for wine. So port is in Portugal, and Porto, and sherry is in South Spain, and data. And they produce different style wines there. Whereas in sherry, it's always oxidized and fortified wines. They can be from very, very dry to very, very sweet. So you have kind of all the sweetness levels. And there's a tiny difference how you age it as well. If you age it with the so-called floor, so with this yeast film on top, so it oxidizes in a different way than if you don't have it. So it actually protects us a little bit, the oxidation. But you always have like an oxidized wine that goes from very dry to very sweet. And in port, you always have a sweet wine that is not so sweet as the sweetest sherry, but it's always sweet. Or like some exceptions like white port and so on. I'm just talking about the main products. And then you have like 2 main directions with port. You have the reductive style, or let's say the fruity one that it's kind of like looks like optically like a normal red wine.
Yeah.
Whereas you have the tawny one, which looks more like this, like brown, amber, depends on how old it is. And with tawny, usually you have like just tawny reserve, and then you can have the 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 40-year-old. There's also 30-year-old, but it's quite unusual. And you have like the vintage tawny, which is called Colheita. And in the reductive style, you have ruby reserve. Then you have late bottle vintage, which is a wine that has bottled a bit later, so it tastes a little bit like vintage port. And vintage port, which is from once a year, and those are the most and they would like to sell the most quality ones. So basically, you have two different of wine, always sweet, with about 100 grams fresh sugar.
Yeah.
And in sherry, you have a wine that can be from very dry to very sweet, but it's always oxidized. So there could be like some meeting points between Tony port and let me think. I think it's Amontillado. I'm getting the course. This next course. Oloroso, Amontillado, Oloroso. I'm not sure now. I should actually know this.
Testing your knowledge.
Yeah. And Commandaria would be also like similar. It has less alcohol.
Okay. Yeah.
And the grapes are Palomino are for sherry, and for the very sweet ones are usually Pedro Jimenez. And for port, you have all these Portuguese varieties from Toriga Nacional, Tinta Roriz, Tinta Barroca, Tinta Cam. So many, like you have over 50 different. And in Commandaria, usually it's Chimisteri and Mavro. I don't know, my Greek is not so.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So because of the style, then you won't really taste the grapes so much. I mean, you can't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Now I know. I'll send them this video and be like, now you know the difference between port and sherry.
Sure.
And Commandaria.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. That is so cool. I need to stop drinking this. It's 9 a.m. here.
Yeah, we can show the cake again, of course. Such a beautiful cake. But yours is much better. My figs were too ripe, so when I was chopping them, they were kind of like falling apart.
Yeah. Like mushy, but that's like those figgy, like not figgy, really jammy figs that are like so ripe and so sweet.
The taste was delicious, but it was more like when you were touching, they were like almost. I was trying to cut them.
That's the thing. I mean, you could make this with dried figs as well in the winter if you don't have fresh figs, because it ends up, the ones in the cake ends up tasting like dried figs, like because they've been baked. So I think you could probably use dried figs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be able to put them on, well, you could put them on top. It would just be like a richer, deeper flavor. But yeah, thankfully, it sounds like you had a ton of figs, and I had just had a bunch from like, there's an almond on my bunch from like the neighbor's tree.
We have this fig tree in our country house, which is massive, and there's so many figs. And actually, some of them I bought because we came last Thursday. I already put away because they were too much. So it's good. I took some more just in case. Yeah,
me too. I was like, I don't know, because I made 2 cakes, and I was like, oh man, I need more figs now because I've used all of them for the first cake. But yeah, I will be posting the recipe with the post will have the information on the wine too, and I'll direct them to you for all the details on the wine. But that'll be up by tomorrow, so I will stay tuned for that. It'll be up soon.
And yeah, we would like to thank you everyone for watching us. And if you still have any questions, you can text Amelia or me. I think it's better Amelia for the recipe, me for the wine. That would be much helpful, but you can ask anyone for anything you like, and I'm very happy to answer your questions. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for this new wine. Yeah, thank you so much for this amazing cake. I will definitely do it again because it's just delicious. Perfect. I cannot wait to see the rest of the information on the dinner because it sounds awesome. Yeah, I'll post some stories later on about all the dishes. Cool. Well, have a lovely dinner party. Cheers. Thank you so much. Have a great drive, and hopefully the calls would go well on the car. We'll see. Back to San Francisco. And hope to see you soon because I've heard you're coming to Vienna. We actually have to talk about this. Oh yes, we are. My sister and I will be there mid-October. So if you're around, we will have to do something while I'm there. Yeah, definitely. All right. So thanks everyone for watching. And we will hopefully do this again very soon. Yeah. With more non-figgy desserts, but this will be like the most figs I've had in ages. Exactly. But they're wonderful. All right, so goodbye. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thanks, everyone.